Hare Krishna, RadheRadhe. So today we will learn something new, obviously. The subject of the Bhagavad Gita entails the comprehension of five basic truths. First of all, the science of God is explained, and then the constitutional position of the living entities, Jeeves. There is Ishwar, which means the controller, and there are Jeeves, the living entities, which are controlled. If a living entity says that he is not controlled but that he is free, then he is insane. The living being is controlled in every respect, at least in his conditioned life. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matter deals with the Ishwar, the supreme controller, and the Jeeves, the controlled living entities. Prakriti, material nature, and time, the duration of existence of the whole universe, or the manifestation of material nature, and karma, activity, are also discussed. The cosmic manifestation is full of different activities. All living entities are engaged in different activities. From Bhagavad Gita, we must learn what God is and what the living entities are, what Prakriti is, what the cosmic manifestation is, how it is controlled by time, and what the activities of the living entities are. Out of these five basic subject matters is Bhagavad Gita. It established that the Supreme Godhead, or Krishna, or Brahman, or the Supreme Controller, or Paramatma, you may use whatever name you like, is the greatest of all. The living beings are in quality like the Supreme Controller. For instance, the Lord has control over the universal affairs of material nature, as will be explained in the later chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Material nature is not independent, she is acting under the directions of the Supreme Lord, what we call as Maya. So here it is mentioned as material nature, that is Maya. As Lord Krishna says, Maya Dhaksen Prakriti Suyate Sa Charachara. This material nature is working under my direction. When we see wonderful things happening in the cosmic nature, we should know that behind this cosmic manifestation there is a controller. Nothing could be manifested without being controlled. It is childish not to consider the controller. For instance, a child may think that an automobile is quite wonderful to be able to run without a horse or other animal pulling it, but a sane man knows the nature of the automobile's engineering arrangement. He always knows that behind the machinery there is a man, a driver. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the driver under whose direction everything is working. Now, the Jeeves or the living entities have been accepted by the Lord, as we will note in the later chapters, as his parts and parcels. A particle of God is also gold. A particle of gold is also gold. A drop of water from the ocean is also salty. And similarly, we, the living entities, being part and parcel of the Supreme Controller, Ishwar or Bhagwan or Lord Shri Krishna, have all the qualities of the Supreme Lord in minute quantity, because we are minute Ishwars, subordinate Ishwars. We are trying to control nature, as presently we are trying to control space or planets, and this tendency to control is there because it is in Krishna. But although we have a tendency to lord it over material nature, we should know that we are not the supreme controller. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita. What is material nature? This is also explained in the Gita as inferior Prakriti, inferior nature. The living entity is explained as the superior Prakriti. Prakriti is always under control, whether inferior or superior. Prakriti is female and she is controlled by the Lord, just as the activities of a wife are controlled by the husband. Prakriti is always subordinate, predominated by the Lord, who is the predominator. The living entities and material nature are both predominated, controlled by the Supreme Lord. According to the Gita, the living entities, although parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are to be considered Prakriti. This is clearly mentioned in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Aparayam itastav anyam prakritim vidhi me param jeev bhutam This material nature is my inferior Prakriti, but beyond this is another Prakriti, Jeev Bhuta, the living entities. Material nature itself is constituted by three qualities: the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. Above these modes, there is eternal time, and by combination of these modes of nature, and under the control and purview of eternal time, there are activities which are called karma. These activities are being carried out from time immemorial, and we are suffering or enjoying the fruits of our activities. For instance, suppose I am a businessman and have worked very hard with intelligence and have amassed a great bank balance. Then I am an enjoyer. But then say I have lost all my money in business, then I am a sufferer. Similarly, in every field of life, we enjoy the results of our work or we suffer the results. This is called karma. Ishwar, the Supreme Lord; Jeev, the living entity; Prakriti, nature; Kal, eternal time; and Karma, activity, are all explained in the Bhagavad Gita. Out of these five, the Lord, the living entities, material nature, and time are eternal. The manifestation of Prakriti may be temporary, but it is not false. Some philosophers say that the manifestation of material nature is false. But according to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, or according to the philosophy of the Vaishnavas, this is not so. The manifestation of the word is not accepted as false, it is accepted as real, but temporary. It is likened unto a cloud which moves across the sky, or the coming of the rainy season which nourishes grains. As soon as the rainy season is over and as soon as the cloud goes away, all the crops which are nourished by the rain dry up. Similarly, this material manifestation takes place at a certain interval, stays for a while, and then disappears. Such are the workings of Prakriti, but this cycle is working eternally. Therefore, Prakriti is eternal, it is not false. The Lord refers to this as my Prakriti. This material nature is the separated energy of the Supreme Lord, and similarly, the living entities are also the energy of the Supreme Lord. Although they are not separated but eternally related, so the Lord, the living entity, material nature, and time are all interrelated and are all eternal. However, the other time, karma is not eternal. The effects of karma may be very old indeed. We are suffering or enjoying the results of our activities from time immemorial, but we can change the results of our karma or our activity, and this change depends on the perfection of our knowledge. We are engaged in various activities. Undoubtedly, we do not know what sort of activities we should adopt to gain relief from the actions and reactions of all these activities. But this is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. The position of Ishwar, the Supreme Lord, is that of supreme consciousness. The Jeevs, or the living entities, being parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are also conscious. Both the living entity and material nature are explained as Prakriti, the energy of the Supreme Lord. But one of the two, the Jeev, is conscious. The other Prakriti is not conscious, that is the difference. Therefore, the Jeev Prakriti is called superior because the Jeev has consciousness, which is similar to the Lord. The Lord is supreme consciousness, however, and one should not claim that the Jeev, the living entity, is also supremely conscious. The living being cannot be supremely conscious at any stage of his perfection, and the theory that he can be so is a misleading theory. Conscious he may be, but he is not perfectly or supremely conscious. Okay, so from here I got the thought and I got the clarity. I read it that yog means union, that we all know. But what union? Union of what? Union of which two things or two more things? So as in Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned that the Supreme Lord is the supreme consciousness, and Jeev Prakriti do have consciousness but not the supreme. They have the consciousness to connect with the Lord. So yog, what I have read, that yog is the union of body, that is Jeev, that is this material body made up of 5 elements, and the consciousness, So unity of material body and consciousness is called yoga. Like we do meditation and we connect with the spiritual energies or cosmic energies. So that is our consciousness, that is our conscious mind, our conscious prakriti. So that is yoga. That's why we say that yoga connects us with Supreme Lord as well. So moving further, the distinction between the Jeev and the Ishwar will be explained in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Geeta. The Lord is Kshetrajan, conscious as is the living being, but the living being is conscious of his particular body. Whereas the Lord is conscious of all bodies, because he lives in the heart of every living being. He is conscious of the psychic movements of the particular Jeevs. We should not forget this. It is also explained that the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is living in everyone's heart as Ishwar, as the controller, and that he is giving directions for the living entity to act as he desires. That living entity forgets what to do. First of all, he makes a determination to act. Radhe, 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 Krishna. To act in a certain way, and then he is entangled in the actions and reactions of his own karma. After giving up one type of body, he enters another type of body as we take off and put on clothes. So it is clear here only. We will go deep in further chapters, but it is clear here only that this body is nothing other than like a cloth form. That's why when it is said that someone born or someone dies, so he or she, the soul actually, the soul is not he or she, not male or female. The soul is just changing the body. But changing the body after like accepting the results of his karma in this body. And then in the next body, then he gets, like we say that जो भी हमने कर्मा किया होता है वो हमें इसी जन्म में भुगतना पड़ता है. तो अभी कलयुग में क्या है, वो इसी जन्म में भुगतना पड़ता है, हम ऐसा बोलते हैं, क्योंकि हम कर्मा इतना ज़्यादा अभी इतना गलत कर्मा हो रहा है, इतना सब कुछ हो रहा है. तो और ऑब्वियसली अभी कलयुग का जो टाइम अभी बढ़ रहा है, लाइक घोर कलयुग आ रहा है, देन उसके बाद फिर से एक साइकिल स्टार्ट होगी सतयुग की, त्रेता युग की. सो अभी कलयुग जो है वो बढ़ रहा है. तो और धीरे धीरे जो है वो यही कहा जाता है कि जो पहले कहा जाता था कि मरने के बाद आपको स्वर्ग या नरक मिलेगा, अभी इसलिए कहा जाता है कि इसी बॉडी में यहीं पे आपको अपना कर्मा भुगतना पड़ता है. बट समवेयर वो कुछ कर्मा आप यहाँ भुगतते हैं, बट समवेयर क्या होता है, जो हमारा नेक्स्ट लाइफ होता है उस तक भी वो जाता है, क्योंकि सोल इज़ एटर्नल. जो सोल है वो उसकी कोई एज नहीं है और वो सोल एक ही है. और यही रीज़न है, आई हैव हर्ड समवेयर टू, लाइक आई थिंक फ्रॉम बीके शिवानी दीदी और someone else, but I think from B.K. Shivani Didi, that what we make as kundli on the birth of a child, what the Brahmins make, so it is based on the planets, because planets and soul both are eternal and they know each other well, like planets and that soul, the karma of that soul. On the basis of that, the kundli is made for the further life. And then what we do, like the people who get more into like kundlis and there's showing hands to the pandit brahmins, okay, that's fine. It is I'm not hurting anyone's thought, but what we do, like we say words manifest. Okay, so when a brahman or panditji say that at this age you will get this, so what happens, that stays in our mind for long. Like at this age it will happen, at this age it will happen. So what we do, we manifest that. We keep on thinking that and we manifest that. सोते जागते हर वक्त हम उस चीज़ को सोचते रहते हैं और क्या होता है, वही हो जाता है. एंड देन वी से हाँ जी पंडित जी ने ऐसा बोला था, ऐसा बोला. बट As we have read here just now, और जो काफ़ी महापुरुष लोग भी कहते हैं कि अपनी किस्मत हम अपने हाथ से लिखते हैं, तो वो क्यों कहा जाता है? क्योंकि हर चीज़ का अपना एक इम्पॉर्टेंस है। आपकी कुंडली बनी, दैट्स फाइन, बट व्हाट यू हैव टू डू कि जितना भी हमारा गलत कर्मा है, जो भी कुंडली में लिखा है कि इस एज पे हमारा कुछ गलत होने वाला है, कुछ ऐसा बुरा होने वाला है, हमारा डाउन टाइम आने वाला है, या कुछ भी ऐसा लिखा है, तो हमें उसको मैनिफेस्ट नहीं करना। व्हाट वी हैव टू डू, वी हैव टू मेक अवर कर्मा इन द पॉजिटिव वे, सो दैट वो जो हमारा कर्मा है, जो हमारी पिछली लाइफ का कर्मा है, वो जो लाइक बीके शिवानी दीदी से दैट कार्मिक अकाउंट जो हम बना लेते हैं, चाहे किसी काम के साथ, किसी इंसान के साथ, तो वो हमें क्लोज़ करना है। उसको अगर हम कंटिन्यू करते रहेंगे तो ऑब्वियसली वो आगे जाके हमें दिक्कत देगा। तो यहाँ पे दोनों चीज़ें क्लियर होती हैं कि कुंडली क्यों बनाई जाती है, या क्या कैसे बनती है, क्या पर्पस है, और बाकी हम आगे भगवद गीता में जानेंगे तो हम बहुत डीपली इसको जान सकते हैं। फ़िलहाल के लिए जो मैंने यहाँ पे अभी थोड़ा सा पढ़ा, और जो मैंने बीके शिवानी दीदी और जय किशोरी जी और काफ़ी और महापुरुषों से सुना है, तो उसके बेस पे मेरी अभी तक यही थिंकिंग है, एंड आई थिंक दिस इज़ अ गुड थिंकिंग। आई विल नॉट से दिस इज़ ट्रूली करेक्ट, आई विल से दिस इज़ अ गुड थिंकिंग, क्योंकि ये पॉजिटिव है और ये आपको भी पॉजिटिविटी दे रही है। सो मूविंग फर्दर, वी विल रीड, as the soul thus migrates, he suffers the actions and reactions of his past activities. What I just said now. These activities can be changed when the living being is in the mood of goodness. What I have said right now, that if you are moving from one body to another, then it's better to move from the mode of darkness to mode of goodness, insanity, and understands what sort of activity he should adopt. If he does so, then all the actions and reactions of his past activities can be changed. Consequently, karma is not eternal. Therefore, we stated that of the 5 items, Ishwar, Jeev, Prakriti, time and karma, 4 are eternal, whereas karma is not eternal. The Supreme Conscious Ishwar is similar to the living entity in this way, both the consciousness of the Lord and that of the living entity as transcendent. It is not that consciousness is generated by the association of matter. That is a mistaken idea. The theory that consciousness develops under certain circumstances of material combination is not accepted in the Bhagavad Gita. Consciousness, just as light reflected through colored glass, may appear to be a certain color, but the consciousness of the Lord is not materially affected. Lord Krishna says, Maya Dhyaksena Prakriti. When he descends into the material universe, his consciousness is not materially affected. If he were so affected, he would be unfit to speak on transcendental matters, as he does in the Bhagwad Geeta. One cannot say anything about the transcendental world without being free from materially contaminated consciousness. So the Lord is not materially contaminated. Our consciousness at the present moment, however, is materially contaminated. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that we have to purify this materially contaminated consciousness. In pure consciousness, our actions will be dovetailed to the will of the Ishwar, and that will make us happy. It is not that we have to cease all activities. As they say that being spiritual does not mean. I've just heard from Jaya Kishori ji as well, and in his katha also, that being spiritual does not mean that you should leave everything. Okay, so here I was just reading about the word exact meaning of transcendental, because we are reading it again and again in Bhagavad Gita. So transcendental is just beyond the control of human beings. That we call as consciousness, or that we call as cosmic. So it is beyond human, right? So that's why they are comparing like transcendental world and materially contaminated world. So these are the two things. मतलब एक है जो मोह माया से बिल्कुल परे है, जो हमारे परमात्मा के करीब है, और एक है जिसमें हम मोह माया में डूबे हुए हैं, मोह माया से हम संक्रमित हैं, कंटेमिनेटेड हैं, हम वहाँ पे फंस चुके हैं बिल्कुल बुरी तरह से। तो आगे हम पढ़ते हैं। The Bhagavad Gita teaches that we have to purify this materially contaminated consciousness. In pure consciousness, our actions will be dovetailed to the will of the Ishwar, and that will make us happy. It is not that we have to cease all activities, as I have explained already. Rather, our activities are to be purified, and purified activities are called bhakti. Activities in bhakti appear to be like ordinary activities, but they are not contaminated. An ignorant person may see that a devotee is acting or working like an ordinary man, but such a person with a poor fund of knowledge does not know that the activities of the devotee or of the Lord are not contaminated by impure consciousness or matter. They are transcendental to the three modes of nature. We should know, however, that at this point our consciousness is contaminated. And when we are materially contaminated, we are called conditioned. मतलब हम हर चीज़ में उसका फ़ायदा या नुकसान देखना शुरू कर देते हैं, पर जब हम प्योर, हम ट्रू भक्ति करते हैं तो हम ये चीज़ नहीं करते हैं। तो हम उसमें फ़ायदा या नुकसान नहीं देखते हैं, हम सिर्फ क्या देखते हैं कि हम परमात्मा से कैसे जुड़े, हम परमात्मा के साथ कैसे बैठें, हम परमात्मा के साथ खुद को कैसे कनेक्ट करें, हम कैसे जो इस मटीरियलिस्टिक वर्ल्ड में जो भी बुराई है उसको कैसे ख़त्म करें। और ये सारी चीज़ें होती हैं। तो आज का हम सेशन इतना ही करेंगे भगवद गीता का, और इतना पहले हम कंज्यूम करते हैं, ऑब्ज़र्व करते हैं, और उसके बाद हम कल दोबारा से इसको आगे रीड करेंगे। तो अभी के लिए हरे कृष्ण, राधे।